Mama, he doesn't stop. He rides me like a horse. I can't keep up. He's not normal." Zainab's voice pierced the quiet night, echoing through the small northern Nigerian village. The villagers stirred from their sleep, peering out of their huts to witness the commotion. Hajiya rushed out, her heart pounding with worry. She found Zainab trembling, tears streaming down her face, and the newlywed Danjuma standing behind her, confused and embarrassed. "What's going on?" Hajiya asked, her voice shaky. Zainab sobbed, "Mama, I can't stay with him. He's too much." She clutched her wrapper tightly, her fear and exhaustion evident. The villagers, now fully awake, began murmuring among themselves. Hajiya, shocked and humiliated, turned to Danjuma. "What is she talking about, my son?" she asked. Danjuma, struggling to find the words, replied, I don't know, Mama. I was only trying to be a good husband." In a peaceful village in northern Nigeria, surrounded by green fields and a sparkling river, there lived a young man named Danjuma. He was the kind of man everyone admired. Tall, strong, and with skin that shone like polished ebony, Danjuma was the pride of the village. His muscles rippled with every step he took, and his kind eyes seemed to hold the warmth of the sun. The women in the village admired him openly, whispering about his charm. Even the older women couldn't help but glance at him with approval as he passed by. But despite all the attention, Danjuma remained humble and kind. His late father had taught him to respect others, and his mother, Hajiya, had raised him with love and discipline. Hajiya often told him, "My son, beauty and strength are gifts, but they are nothing without a good heart. Always treat people with kindness and never break your promises." Danjuma had never been with a woman before. His mother had taught him the importance of purity, and he had held on to that belief, knowing he would only share himself with his wife. When Danjuma turned 25, he felt it was time to settle down. For months, his heart had been set on a young woman named Zainab. She was as graceful as a swan, her laughter like the sound of tinkling bells. Her dark skin glowed under the sun, and her bright smile lit up every room she entered. One sunny afternoon, Danjuma saw her at the village stream, where she was fetching water. He mustered the courage to speak to her. "Zainab," he said softly, "I've admired you for a long time. You are the most beautiful woman in the village, and I would be honored if you would be my wife." Zainab blushed deeply, lowering her gaze. "I have always noticed your kindness, Danjuma," she replied shyly. "Yes, I will marry you." Their wedding was the talk of the village. The air was filled with music, the aroma of delicious food, and the laughter of joyful guests. But as the night fell, a new chapter of their lives began, a chapter that no one could have foreseen. Danjuma, eager to begin his life with Zainab, led her into their home. His heart raced with excitement, but what followed was far from what he had imagined. Just a short while into the night, Zainab suddenly screamed and bolted out of the house. She ran straight to Hajiya's home, tears streaming down her face. "Mama, Mama," she cried, trembling. "He is not normal. He doesn't stop. His energy is too much for me." Hajiya rushed to her side, alarmed. "Zainab, calm down," she said, holding her hands. "What do you mean?" Zainab explained between sobs. "It's like he's possessed. I can't keep up with him, Mama. He is not a man, he's a machine." Hajiya was shocked. She called Danjuma over to explain. The young man, confused and embarrassed, could only say, "I don't understand. I was just trying to be a good husband." Hajiya reassured Zainab, "Give him time, my daughter. He is inexperienced. Things will get better, I promise." Reluctantly, Zainab agreed to return to Danjuma But the same thing happened again and again. Each night, Zainab felt overwhelmed, and each morning her fear grew. Finally, she could take no more. One morning, she packed her belongings and returned to her father's house, leaving Danjuma heartbroken. Word spread quickly throughout the village. Some women pitied Zainab, while others whispered that she was weak. "If I had the chance, I could handle Danjuma," boasted Amina, a confident and bold young woman. Not long after, Amina caught Danjuma's attention and the two got married. Amina was determined to succeed where Zainab had failed. "You'll see, Mama Hajiya," she said confidently. "I will show you that I can handle Danjuma." But on their wedding night, Amina screamed even louder than Zainab and fled the house in tears. "He is not normal," she shouted. She didn't even wait until morning. She packed her bags that very night and returned to her parents. Hajiya, now desperate and confused, decided to seek help. She took Danjuma to a local herbalist. The man examined him carefully and said, "There is nothing wrong with him. He is perfectly healthy." But Hajiya wasn't convinced. As the rumors of Danjuma's misfortunes spread like wildfire, he became the subject of ridicule. The once admired young man was now a shadow of his former self, walking through the village with his head bowed low. Hajiya, overwhelmed by sorrow, decided she couldn't sit idly by. One night, as she sat by the fire, tears streaming down her face, she whispered to herself, "This is not my son's fault. There must be something deeper at play." A few days later, Hajiya remembered a name, Malam Baba, a powerful native doctor in a neighboring village known for his wisdom and connection to the spirit world. She gathered her courage and told Danjuma, "We're going to seek answers from someone who sees beyond what we can." Together they set out at dawn, traveling for hours across rocky paths and thick forests. When they arrived at Malam Baba's shrine, the air was heavy with the smell of incense, and the distant sound of drumming echoed in their ears. The shrine was surrounded by carved wooden statues of ancient deities, their eyes seeming to follow every move. Malam Baba, an old man with a long white beard and piercing eyes, sat cross-legged by a fire. He listened quietly as Hajiya recounted the strange events surrounding Danjuma. When she finished, he leaned forward, stirring the fire with a stick. "Hajiya," he said in a deep, foreboding voice, "there is more to this than you realize. You cannot escape the promises made to the gods." Hajiya's heart skipped a beat. "What promise, Baba?" she asked, her voice trembling. Malam Baba's gaze seemed to pierce through her soul. "Do you not remember? Years ago, before this boy was born, you and your husband came to the shrine of Ugu, begging for a child. The gods answered your prayers, but there was a price, a sacrifice of 3 cows after the child's birth. Did you fulfill it?" Hajiya's breath caught in her throat as the memory came flooding back. She remembered the desperation, the tears she and her husband shed at the shrine, and the priest's solemn warning. But after her husband's sudden death, the promise had been forgotten. I didn't," she stammered, her voice breaking. Malam Baba shook his head. "The gods are angry. This is why your son suffers. But there is something else." He paused, his eyes narrowing. "What else, Baba?" Danjuma asked, his voice thick with anxiety. Malam Baba pointed to the fire. "Look into the flames." As Danjuma and Hajiya peered into the fire, the flames began to swirl and dance, forming shapes and images. They saw the shrine of Ugu, the figures of Hajiya and her late husband kneeling before the priest. But then the image shifted, showing another scene, a shadowy figure stealing away in the night, carrying a small clay pot filled with offerings. Malam Baba spoke gravely. Not only was the vow broken, but someone attempted to cheat the gods. An offering was stolen from the shrine before the sacrifice was ever completed. Hajiya gasped. Who would dare do such a thing? Malam Baba closed his eyes, chanting softly. After a long silence, he opened them and said, "It was a man close to your husband, a trusted friend, jealous of the favor the gods showed you. He stole the offering, thinking he could use it for his own gain. The curse that was meant for him has now fallen on your son." Hajiya clutched her chest, tears streaming down her face. "Baba, how do we fix this? My son is innocent." "The gods demand the stolen offering be returned," Malam Baba replied. "But the thief is no longer alive. His spirit roams, restless and bound to the curse he created. To break the curse, you must not only fulfill the original vow, but also offer a goat and a white cloth to appease his restless spirit." Danjuma's voice trembled as he asked, "And if we fail?" Malam Baba's voice turned cold. "Then the curse will consume you, and the gods will take your life as payment." The next morning, Hajiya sold a precious piece of land to buy 3 cows, a goat, and a white cloth. They returned to the shrine of Ugu, where the priest prepared the sacrifices. The shrine was eerily quiet, the only sounds being the rustling of leaves and the occasional caw of a crow. As the priest began the ritual, a sudden gust of wind blew through the shrine, extinguishing the flames of the sacred fire. The priest paused, looking unsettled. "The gods are restless," he murmured. Then, out of nowhere, a dark shadow appeared at the edge of the shrine. It was the restless spirit of the thief, its face twisted in anguish. The figure spoke in a haunting voice. "Why do you disturb me?" Hajiya stepped forward, her hands trembling but her voice steady. "You stole from the gods and cursed my son. We are here to make things right." The spirit laughed bitterly. "Make things right? I paid for my greed with my life. But if you truly wish to break the curse, then you must prove your sincerity." "What must we do?" Danjuma asked, his fists clenched. The spirit pointed to a nearby river. "The white cloth must be dipped in the water before the final sacrifice is made. But beware, the gods will test your resolve." As Danjuma approached the river with the cloth, the water began to ripple violently, and a thick fog rose, obscuring everything. From the depths of the river, a voice called out, "Turn back! Leave the cloth! Or face the wrath of the gods!" Hajiya shouted from the shrine, "Do not give up, my son. A promise must be kept, no matter the cost." Danjuma, though terrified, pressed on. Suddenly a serpent as long as a tree slithered out of the water, blocking his path. Its eyes glowed like fire and it hissed, "You are not worthy." With a deep breath, Danjuma stood tall and said, "I will not run. This curse has caused my family enough pain. I am here to end it." The serpent paused, its fiery eyes narrowing. Then with a low growl, it slid back into the water, vanishing into the depths. The fog lifted, and the river became calm. Danjuma dipped the cloth into the water, and a sense of peace washed over him. When he returned to the shrine, the priest completed the final sacrifice. As the last prayer was spoken, a gentle breeze swept through the shrine. The priest smiled and said, "The gods have accepted your offering. The curse is lifted." For the first time in years, Danjuma felt free. But the journey had taught him a valuable lesson. Promises must never be taken lightly, and courage and perseverance can overcome even the darkest challenges.